Hi, I'm Christina Pater. One of the questions I get all the time is, when should I start sharing my idea with my friends, and how should I go about that? When's the right time to share the book idea or the screenplay idea or the course or the thing? And the answer is that there is no cookie cutter answer to that. There is no one size fits all answer to that. It's good to be cautious, and there are a few things to be aware of when you think about the right time and with whom to share your idea. And a couple of those things are this. In the early stages, when your idea is in its embryonic stage, it might be a good time to protect that idea and to keep it close and in your close circle of advisors and trusted colleagues and writer friends. Sometimes it is difficult for the non-writer, although loving family members as they are, the non-writers among us to see or to allow to understand the process of an idea taking shape. And so if they're not getting it and you are feeling vulnerable about it, that mix of factors might not work in your favor, because you might get feedback that's like, I don't get it. And that can be very difficult to hear. It can be something that detracts you from developing that idea further into the fullness of what it's meant to be. On the other hand, if you do have a thicker skin and you're somebody who can take and roll with that kind of feedback and be like, oh, okay, it's not making sense yet. The way I'm explaining it isn't landing yet. And work with that to hone your idea further or to hone your pitch further. The other thing that happens is a lot of times our pitch or how we're explaining our idea to another person isn't fully baked. It's not as practiced as the idea itself. And so it's like taking the brownies out of the oven too soon. It's undercooked and the eggs are kind of raw and you're kind of raw and kind of vulnerable. So just be careful about when and who, and think about also, if you're asking for feedback early, think about how directly and what feedback you're asking for. So for example, hey, I have this idea, blurt it out, what do you think? Is a very broad way to ask that question. On the converse, what can be helpful is say, hey, I have this idea, I'm just kind of playing with it, it's new, it's in its early stages, but could you tell me if you think something is there? And then share the idea. Or could you tell me, could you see a seed? Could you see this going somewhere? Having the listener understand that it's just really in its early phases. Those things can be helpful for you. And you can also ask directly for support. I have this idea and I want to hear from you what you think is good about it. Can be what appeals to you about this idea. Of course, the listener could have the option to say nothing appeals, and that's information for you too. But again, it also makes a big difference if you're asking for that input between writers and trusted colleagues and non-writers, such as family and friends, who may not understand the process and how derivative it can be over time. So derivative and also iterative over time. So those are the things to think about when you are considering sharing your idea beyond yourself and asking for feedback.